Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I wanted to share with you my academic journey in the Hanafi Madhhab, which is the madhhab that I follow, and specifically in the 7-year Dars Nizami course that I have gone through. I wanted to share the books that I actually studied. Now, after the Dars Nizami, which was the 7-year course, I did study a little bit more, and then, extra 2 years in Hadith, and then another 2 years for Ifta. Ifta is basically the course where it's a 2-year course where an individual who has passed all of the Dars Nizami requirements will study the Hanafi Madhhab in more depth and issue fatawa, write different research papers, etc., and give fatwas and have it checked by a senior mufti. And then at the end of that, they get their qualification to be a mufti. I remember some time ago, someone said that, I was a self-labeled mufti. I don't like calling myself mufti. I do call myself mufti just so people understand. But I do have the qualifications. I do have the certificate. I do have the degree, alhamdulillah, with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in the 7-year course specifically, what books did I study for specifically the Hanafi madhab? Now, the Dars Nizami should not be considered only a fiqh syllabus. It is a syllabus that aims to make everyone literate in Islam. It does not aim to make a person mutakhasis and a specialist in any particular field. And I'm talking about the current day Dars Nizami, not the Dars Nizami in the past, which was about 16 years, though at those times people would become specialists by the end of the course. In today's environment, practically everywhere you go for a Dars Nizami curriculum, what it will do is it takes you from being an absolute beginner, not really knowing much, to, I would say, finishing the beginner stages, going into the intermediate, and starting in the advanced levels. Now, studying further will take you to advanced levels and will take you to the heights of those. And then self-study, teaching, etc., spending another decade in a specific field will actually grant one mastery after that. So the Dars Nizami does not grant a person mastery in any particular field, in my opinion, nor does it make one extremely advanced, but it takes one to the doors of becoming an advanced student, and it allows the student, inshallah, to be able to study on their own to get to that level later on. So in reality, a person could study for 7 years to get their Dars Nizami degree, as alhamdulillah, I did and many others in the world do. But they would still have to study another decade, 2 decades, teach, be involved in a particular field to actually gain advanced level or even mastery. Anyway, I'm focusing specifically on what I studied in the Hanafi Madhhab in the Dars Nizami, and I'm not talking about what I did in Ifta, what I did, when I was doing specialist training in Hanafi fiqh later on. So the book that we actually started with was a book written in Urdu. We had to learn Urdu. I didn't know a word of Urdu. I had to learn it because a lot of Hanafi works are in Urdu as well. And a person can really benefit from learning the Urdu language. That doesn't mean we didn't know Arabic either. We had to learn Urdu and Arabic and be proficient in both. The more languages a person knows, the better. So we read this book in Urdu. It was called Deen Ki Batein, and that was written by Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi, a very famous, great scholar in various fields in the previous generation. So we read through that, and it took a whole year to understand that. It was a simplified version of Hanafi fiqh, written in the Urdu language, and it covers the absolute basics from tahara, purity, salah, zakat, saum, a little bit of hajj, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, so that was Deen Ki Batein. And Deen Ki Batein is summarized from his other book, Behshti Zawar. Anyway, after that, we went into the Arabic books, the actual Hanafi books. So the first book that we actually studied was al-Īḍāḥ wa Najātul Arwāḥ. And I actually did a book review on this, so I'm going to link that. Inshallah, you guys can check out the book review, and I actually show you the book that I actually studied from and how it's much more different than these books that we have today. This is published by Darul Bashair al-Islamiyya, and the muhaqqiq, the one who did the research on the book, is Sa'id Baktash. Of course, the author of Nur al-Īḍāḥ is Imam Ash-Shurunbulali, and this is an amazing book. I really enjoyed reading through this book. I mean, look at this version. It's so clean, so pristine, very clear. But the book itself doesn't cover all of Hanafi fiqh. What it does is it gives a person an understanding of ibadah, acts of worship, starting with tahara, purity, how to do wudu, how to cleanse oneself, all of those types of rulings, how to clean clothing, etc. Then it goes into salah, then it proceeds into zakah, and fasting, etc. So the acts of worship were covered in this book. So we already studied Deen Ki Batein before this, so we kind of understood the masail and the issues. We just added on to that a traditional Arabic book. Even though this is late, like, Imam Shurunbulali, he passed away in 1069 Hijri. So that's mutaakhir, meaning later on in the development of the Hanafi Madhhab. But it's still considered a text that is highly appreciated in the Hanafi Madhhab, and a lot of work has been done on it. As you can check out on that book review that I did on this book, you can see some of the commentaries. So this is what we did first to understand the basics of ibadah. Along with that, we did the very famous Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī. Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī is indispensable in the Hanafi madhab. Like, if anyone is a Hanafi and they're studying the madhab, they absolutely have to study Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī. This is not a book that you can bypass. It's not one of those books. It's like if you're studying Aqidah and you don't study Aqidah Tahawiyah, what are you doing? If you study Hadith and you didn't start off with like Arba'in Nawawi or Riyadus Salihin, what are you really doing? Or you're studying Mustalah al-Hadith, you didn't study Ibn Salah, etc., etc. So, Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī. This book is, in the Hanafi madhab, they just call it al-Kitab, the book. It's so famous. Imam al-Qudūrī, and he's very early on, 428 Hijri, he passed away. This is a widely accepted book. There's many commentaries written on it. And every Dars Nizami, to my knowledge, will teach Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī. So we did Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī. Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī has ibadat, just like Nur al-Īḍāḥ, but then it includes all the other aspects and the major chapters of fiqh. So that includes marital law, or you can call it interpersonal law, divorce, marriage, etc. It includes social law, such as business transactions, how to live with one's neighbors, selling homes, etc., those kind of things. It even deals with governmental law. So this is an indispensable book, as I mentioned. And in the past, many people used to memorize Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī. They used to have it from memory. They could recall all of it because it was so famous, and it was necessary for a person to be a Hanafi judge. They would have to know Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī by heart. So we would study that with our teacher and go into all of the masail. Our teacher would sometimes give us the qawa'id and principles that he extracts from the masail, and then we can apply it elsewhere. So we did that. Thereafter, and this I'm talking about now, I'm in the fourth year. Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī in the third year. In the fourth year of our study, we studied Kanz al-Daqā'iq. Kanz al-Daqā'iq by Deen al-Nasafi. And it's much thicker than Nur al-Īḍāḥ. Not only is the book thicker, it's more words, but it's more concise. So effectively what's happening is everything in Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī is made extremely concise. So something that would take 2 lines to explain in Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī is made into like 5 words. So all of the issues in Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī is made denser, and then so much more is added that it becomes like twice the thickness of Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī. So this is jam-packed with a lot of masail. And when we were studying this, our teacher used to teach us the four madhabs through this book. Now, this book doesn't go into the four madhabs. The original Kanz al-Daqā written by Hafidhuddin al-Nasafi, this book doesn't have it, but he used to have symbols on every issue. He would have like fa if Imam Shafi'i has a disagreement with the Hanafi issue. So what's written in the book is the Hanafi rules, but if there was a disagreement between any of the madhabs, he would have a symbol for it and he would put it on top of that word. So you'll have a fa if Imam Shafi'i disagrees, a kaf if Imam Malik disagrees, a dal if Imam Ahmad disagrees. So when we studied, our teacher actually taught us the four madhahib, and sometimes he would even go and teach us other madhahib as well that didn't really last to today's age through this book. And I still have my notebook somewhere with all four madhabs. For every issue, all four madhabs he used to teach us. So this covers more masail. If a person just studies this for the Hanafi madhab, that is fine as well, because this book has much more masail than Qudūrī. It's literally the next step after Qudūrī. And many other Dars Nizamis, what they'll do is they might not have this book. They might have another book, Sharh al-Wiqāyah. They might have al-Mukhtaṣar or al-Ikhtiyār, various other books in the Hanafi Madhhab. But this is what I studied. And what this did is it allowed us to understand much more. It solidified everything we studied in the past. By now, this is the fourth book that we studied. We did Deen ki Batein in Urdu. Then we went into al-Īḍāḥ, then Qudūrī, and then Kanz al-Daqā. All of this was in preparation, and I'm not even talking about the other aspects of Hanafi fiqh. This is a genre called the mutun, the Hanafi masail, the Hanafi rulings. There is another genre, the usulul fiqh, which is the principles to understand all of this, the legal theory. I didn't even mention what we studied for that. Maybe in another video, inshallah, I'll talk about what we studied for legal theory. And there's other aspects as well, like the history and development of the madhab. There's the usulul ifta. What are the principles of issuing a fatwa? These are all different genres within the umbrella of Hanafi fiqh. So we're focusing only on the mutun, the issues like zakat, som, fasting, nikah, divorce, those actual issues. These are the books for that. Now, after doing Kanz al-Daqā, the last step in the traditional Dars Nizami, usually students, if they're just limiting themselves to that, let's say anywhere from 5 to 7 to 8 years, they're limiting themselves to that. They're not going to study beyond this, generally speaking. There could be exceptions. The last book is a commentary on Bidayatul Mubtadi. Bidayatul Mubtadi. What happened here is Imam al-Marghinani, what he did is he took Qudūrī, which I mentioned earlier, and he took al-Jami' al-Saghīr, which was the work of Imam Muhammad, one of the founders of the Hanafi Madhhab, and he merged the two books together to form a new book. So whatever is in Mukhtaṣar al-Qudūrī and it's missing something from al-Jami' al-Saghīr, he would fuse them together, and he followed the chapter headings of al-Jami' al-Saghīr and not Qudūrī. So it doesn't follow chronologically how Qudūrī goes. It follows the chapter headings of al-Jami' al-Saghīr, but all of the issues in Qudūrī are put inside, and he fused it with Imam Muhammad's book, which is also concise, al-Jami' al-Saghīr, and he made a new text, which is Bidayatul Mubtadi. This is just the text. This is going to be 5th and 6th year. We study for 2 years this book because it comes in 4 volumes, depending on the edition that you have. This is a brand new edition, also by Dr. Said Baktash, al-Hidāyah. The commentary of the previous book that I showed you, he put 2 texts together, he fused them, and then he wrote the commentary on it. So this version is 7 volumes long. The ones we studied were 4 volumes long, and this is an intricate book. It is not easy to understand. If a person just does Qudūrī and jumps to al-Hidāyah, they'll have difficulty. That is why we had Kanz al-Daqā before that, and Hidāyah goes in depth with the different explanations and different views of the other imams within the madhab itself. So the Hanafi Madhhab has different views within the Madhhab itself. You have Imam Abu Hanifa having a view, Imam Muhammad, Imam Abu Yusuf, Imam Hassan bin Ziyad, Imam Az-Zufar. So he brings these views in, and then he gives you logical explanations as well as textual explanations for why we follow these rules. So now you get the hadith, the verses, and you get a rationale, logical rationale behind it as well. So he shows you how qiyas is done. So this is a very advanced book. In many places, they won't even cover it, cover to cover. But alhamdulillah, the Dars Nizami still is doing, they really take Hidayah seriously, and they endeavor to complete the whole thing. So alhamdulillah, we did it cover to cover, and it took us 2 years to cover this book. So after studying Hidayah and the previous books, the Hanafi student, develops into the early stages of the advanced level. I'm not saying they're fully advanced. They are reaching the doors of an advanced Hanafi student. And if they want to gain expertise, they need to study more. Ideally, they need to join a Darul Ifta, where they will study a little bit more, different books. They'll study fatawa, how it's done. They'll actually practice doing research and giving fatawa. Inshallah, in another video, I'll talk about other Hanafi books that a person can study to develop even further in the Hanafi Madhhab. And these are the more encyclopedic works. Generally, those who can, they can read it cover to cover. But most people, what they'll do is reference these works and read selected chapters because they're just so enormous. And I have some here, and I'm talking about anywhere from 15 to 20 volumes. These are encyclopedic works in the Hanafi Madhhab. Some people read them cover to cover. Alhamdulillah, the very prominent muftis, they definitely do that. And other students like myself, we just skim through, we read certain passages, we use them in our research, we quote from them because they're encyclopedic. So this was my journey in the Hanafi Madhhab academically. I shouldn't even say the Hanafi Madhhab, I'm talking about the Masail of the Hanafi Madhhab. I studied even more because we did Usul al-Fiqh, we did Usul al-Ifta, we did the history of the Hanafi Madhhab. So altogether, that is my experience in the Hanafi Madhhab. And then I did Ifta after that, where we studied other books as well. So within the 7 years of the Dars Nizami, these are the mutun, the texts of the classical Hanafi texts that I personally covered. Now, each Dars Nizami will be slightly different depending on where you go. This is just my experience, and I hope this was beneficial and gives you an understanding how much the student has to study in order to have just a good understanding in the Hanafi Madhhab. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq to understand and to develop love and appreciation for all of these previous scholars who have paved the way for us to understand our Islam much better. جزاكم الله خيرا وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى على خير خلق محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.